The courtroom was full that morning. Wooden benches creaked as people settled into their seats. Lawyers whispered to each other. Papers shuffled. The air felt heavy, like something important was about to happen. At the center of the room stood an elderly black man. His back was slightly bent, and his hands trembled as he held the railing in front of him. His name was Mr. Elijah Brown, but most people did not bother to remember it. He wore an old brown coat, clean but worn from years of use. His shoes were polished, though the leather was cracked. His face carried deep lines, marks of a long and difficult life. His eyes were calm, but inside him lived fear and confusion. He had never been inside a courtroom before. The words spoken around him sounded like a foreign language. Across the room stood the prosecutor, Mr. Daniel Harris. He was young, confident, and sharp. His suit was expensive. His hair was perfectly styled. He enjoyed attention and believed this case was easy. To him, the old man in front of him was weak and unimportant. The judge entered, and everyone stood. The session began. The prosecutor walked forward with a small smile on his face. He looked at Mr. Brown from head to toe, then turned to the jury. "Your Honor," he said loudly, "this case is very simple." He then faced the old man again. "Mr. Brown," he said, "please tell the court about your education." The old man blinked slowly. He did not understand the question at first. He looked at his lawyer, who whispered something to him. Mr. Brown swallowed and spoke softly. I never went to school, sir," he said. For a second, the room was quiet. Then the prosecutor laughed. It was not a small laugh. It was loud and sharp. Some people in the audience smiled. A few whispered to each other. The sound spread like fire. "So," the prosecutor said, still smiling, "you cannot read or write?" Mr. Brown shook his head gently. "No, sir." The prosecutor turned to the jury. "An uneducated man," he said. "No school, no books, no knowledge of the law." More whispers filled the room. A woman in the back shook her head. Someone else sighed. Mr. Brown felt his face grow warm. His fingers tightened around the railing. He wanted to disappear. Memories rushed into his mind, working in fields as a boy, watching other children walk to school while he carried heavy tools, being told again and again that he was nothing. The prosecutor continued. "How can we trust the words of a man who does not even understand basic education?" he said confidently. This time, a few people laughed again. The judge cleared his throat, uncomfortable, but said nothing. Mr. Brown lowered his eyes. He did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He had learned long ago that the world did not listen to people like him. But what no one noticed was the man sitting in the last row. He sat quietly, dressed in a dark suit. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He had entered the courtroom without attention, like a shadow. While others watched the prosecutor, this man watched Mr. Brown. When the laughter started, his jaw tightened. When the insults continued, his hands slowly formed fists. He knew that old man. The prosecutor moved closer to Mr. Brown. "Tell me," he said mockingly, "do you even understand what is happening here today?" Mr. Brown took a deep breath. "I understand that you think I am foolish," he said quietly. The room fell silent for a moment. The prosecutor smirked. "I think the facts speak for themselves," he replied. The old man nodded slowly. Inside him, pain mixed with dignity. He had survived worse than words. He had survived hunger, cold nights, and years of being ignored. Still, the laughter hurt. The silent man at the back leaned forward slightly. His eyes were now fixed on the prosecutor's back. No one saw him stand yet. No one knew his name. No one understood his power. But he was no ordinary observer. As the prosecutor turned back to the judge, confident and proud, the man behind him rose from his seat. And in that moment, everything in the courtroom was about to change. The courtroom grew quiet after the prosecutor finished speaking. Mr. Elijah Brown still stood in the same place, his hands resting on the railing. His head was lowered, but his face showed calm strength. To many people in the room, he looked small and broken. But his life story was much bigger than they could imagine. Mr. Brown was born in a small village many years ago. His parents were poor farmers. When he was only 7 years old, his father became sick and could no longer work. School was never an option for Elijah. While other children carried books, he carried heavy tools. While they learned letters, he learned how to survive. Every morning before sunrise, Elijah went to work. His hands grew rough, and his back bent early. He watched teachers walk past him without a glance. Sometimes, he stood near the school window and listened to the sound of children reading out loud. He did not understand the words, but he loved the sound of learning. Life was hard, but Elijah was kind. He shared his food when others were hungry. He helped neighbors without asking for money. When people were hurt, he stayed with them. When someone cried, he listened. These were lessons no book had taught him. Years passed. Elijah became a man. He worked many jobs, cleaning, building, carrying, fixing. People trusted him because he never lied. He never stole. His word was strong. In his community, he was known as a good man, even if he could not read his own name. In the courtroom, the prosecutor spoke again, using big words and legal terms. Mr. Brown did not understand most of them. His lawyer tried to explain, but it was still confusing. The room felt cold. He wondered how a man like him could fight a system he did not understand. The judge looked at him carefully. For a moment, there was pity in his eyes. But the court moved on. Mr. Brown's thoughts drifted to his late wife. She had believed in him when no one else did. She used to say, "Education is good, Elijah, but goodness is better." Her words echoed in his heart. The prosecutor thought he had full control. He believed the old man was weak, easy to break. He spoke faster now, louder, trying to impress the jury. Each sentence carried pride and disrespect. But in the last row, the silent man listened to every word. He remembered the same old man standing tall many years ago, standing up for someone else when no one dared to speak. He remembered Elijah's strong voice and gentle heart. The memory burned in his chest. The courtroom did not know it yet, but the balance of power was slowly changing. Mr. Brown lifted his head. His eyes were tired but honest. He looked straight ahead, not at the prosecutor, but at the judge. He did not ask for mercy. He only waited for truth. Behind him, the silent man took one step forward. And soon, the laughter would stop completely. The prosecutor adjusted his tie and walked confidently across the courtroom. He felt powerful. To him, the case was already won. He glanced at Mr. Elijah Brown again and shook his head slightly, as if disappointed. "Your Honor," he said, "this man's own words prove my point." He turned back to the old man. "Mr. Brown," he continued, "without education, how can you even understand right from wrong?" A soft murmur spread through the courtroom. Mr. Brown looked up slowly. His eyes were calm, but there was pain inside them. "Sir," he said quietly, "I know right from wrong because I lived it." The prosecutor laughed again. "That is not how the law works," he said. "Feelings are not facts." Some people in the audience nodded. Others avoided looking at the old man. The prosecutor paced back and forth. "This court deals with logic, rules, and education," he said proudly. "Not stories from an untrained mind." The words cut deep. Mr. Brown felt his chest tighten. He remembered nights when he went to bed hungry so his children could eat. He remembered returning lost money to strangers. He remembered helping people who later turned their backs on him. None of that mattered here. The judge shifted in his seat. "Mr. Harris," he said carefully, "please remain respectful." "Yes, Your Honor," the prosecutor replied, but his tone did not change. He faced the jury again. "We are asked to trust a man who cannot even read a simple sentence," he said. "That should tell us everything." This time, the laughter was louder. Mr. Brown closed his eyes. His hand shook, but he stayed standing. He did not beg. He did not cry. He stood the way he had stood through his entire life, quiet, strong, alone. In the last row, the silent man's patience ended. He stood up. The sound of his chair moving echoed through the room. Heads slowly turned. The prosecutor did not notice yet. He was too busy speaking, too proud of his own voice. The man took a step forward. His face was serious. His eyes held authority. The judge noticed him first. "Sir," the judge said, surprised, "please state your name." The prosecutor froze mid-sentence. The courtroom fell silent. The man spoke calmly, his voice steady and powerful. "My name," he said, "is Samuel Grant." A wave of shock passed through the room. The prosecutor's face lost its color. He knew that name. And suddenly, all the laughter disappeared. The name Samuel Grant hung in the air like thunder. Whispers rushed through the courtroom. Some people sat up straight. Others stared in disbelief. The judge's eyes widened, and he slowly removed his glasses. "Mr. Grant?" the judge asked carefully. "As in, Justice Samuel Grant?" "Yes, Your Honor," the man replied calmly. The prosecutor turned around slowly. His confident smile vanished. His face turned pale. His hands, once steady, now shook slightly. He had mocked an old man without knowing who was watching. Justice Samuel Grant stepped forward. His presence filled the room. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "I came here today as a private citizen," he said. "I did not plan to speak." He looked at Mr. Elijah Brown. "But I cannot stay silent anymore." Mr. Brown looked back, confused. He did not recognize the man yet. To him, this was just another stranger in a suit. The prosecutor tried to speak. "Your Honor, with all respect." Justice Grant raised one hand. The room fell quiet again. "You showed great pride today," Justice Grant said, his voice firm. "You laughed at a man because he lacks formal education." He walked closer to the prosecutor. "Tell me, Mr. Harris," he asked, "do you believe education is only found in books?" The prosecutor swallowed hard. "No, sir, but..." "But you laughed," Justice Grant interrupted. "You used this man's past to shame him." The judge leaned forward, listening carefully. Justice Grant turned toward the jury. "This man," he said, pointing to Mr. Brown, "is the reason I am standing here today." A gasp spread across the courtroom. Mr. Brown's eyes widened. He stared at Justice Grant, trying to understand. "Many years ago," Justice Grant continued, "I was a young man, angry and lost. I made a terrible mistake. I was hurt, bleeding, and afraid." He paused. "This man helped me when no one else would." The prosecutor's face went completely white. "He could not read my name," Justice Grant said, "but he saved my life." The courtroom was frozen. No one moved. No one spoke. Justice Grant walked to stand beside Mr. Brown. The old man's hands trembled more now, not from fear, but from shock. "I stood behind you today," Justice Grant said to the prosecutor, "and I listened." He looked him directly in the eyes. Every laugh. Every insult. The prosecutor lowered his head. "For the record," Justice Grant said, turning to the judge, "this man deserves respect, not ridicule." The judge nodded slowly. And in that moment, the power in the room shifted completely. The courtroom remained completely still. No one dared to speak. Even the sound of breathing felt loud. All eyes were now on Justice Samuel Grant and the elderly man standing beside him. Justice Grant took a slow breath and continued. "Many years ago," he said, "I was not the man you see today. I had no title, no respect, no direction." He looked at Mr. Elijah Brown. "I was young, reckless, and angry at the world." The judge listened closely. The jury leaned forward. "One night," Justice Grant said, "I was attacked while walking home. I was hurt badly. I could not stand. People passed by. They looked at me and walked away." The room felt heavy. "Then this man stopped," he said. "He did not ask who I was. He did not ask if I was educated or important." Justice Grant's voice softened. "He only asked if I needed help." Mr. Brown's eyes filled with tears. The memory returned clearly now. A young man lying on the ground. Blood. Fear. "I carried him to my small home," Mr. Brown whispered, almost to himself. Justice Grant nodded. "Yes. You stayed with me all night. You cleaned my wounds. You fed me. You protected me." The prosecutor could no longer look up. "I told him I wanted to give up on life," Justice Grant continued. "He looked at me and said something I never forgot." Justice Grant turned to the court. He said, "A man is not made by school. He is made by choices." A quiet sob came from the audience. "That night changed my life," Justice Grant said. "I went back to school. I worked hard. I became who I am today." He paused. "And today, I watched this same man be laughed at." The judge's face grew serious. Justice Grant looked directly at the prosecutor. "You questioned his education," he said. "But you never questioned his character." The prosecutor finally spoke, his voice shaking. I was wrong." The courtroom was silent. Justice Grant turned back to the judge. "Your Honor," he said respectfully, "this court must remember something important." He placed a hand gently on Mr. Brown's shoulder. Wisdom does not always wear a suit. Truth does not always speak perfect words. The jury nodded slowly. The truth had been spoken, and the courtroom would never forget it. The judge sat quietly for a long moment. His eyes moved from Justice Samuel Grant to Mr. Elijah Brown, then to the prosecutor. The courtroom waited, holding its breath. Finally, the judge spoke. "This court is not a place for mockery," he said firmly. "It is a place for truth." He turned toward the prosecutor. "Mr. Harris, your behavior today was unprofessional and disrespectful. This court will address that separately." The prosecutor nodded slowly, his shoulders heavy with shame. He no longer looked powerful. He looked small. The judge then faced the jury. "You will disregard the comments made about the defendant's education," he instructed. "They are not evidence." Mr. Brown stood quietly, his heart pounding. For the first time since the trial began, he felt seen. Justice Grant returned to his seat, but his presence remained strong. The courtroom atmosphere had changed completely. No one whispered now. No one laughed. The defense lawyer spoke again, calmly this time. He explained the facts clearly, step by step. Without the insults and noise, the truth became easier to hear. Evidence was reviewed. Witnesses were heard again. Details that were once ignored now mattered. Slowly, the case began to shift. The jury exchanged thoughtful looks. The old man's simple answers were no longer seen as weakness. They were honest. They were real. After a short break, the judge returned. "We have reviewed the facts," he said. "And it is clear that Mr. Elijah Brown did not commit the crime he was accused of." A soft gasp moved through the room. Mr. Brown closed his eyes. His knees felt weak. "This court finds the defendant not guilty," the judge announced. Tears rolled down Mr. Brown's face. He pressed his hands together, whispering a quiet prayer. The prosecutor lowered his head. He did not argue. He could not. The judge added, "Let today be a lesson. Justice without respect is not justice at all." People in the courtroom stood silently as Mr. Brown was guided away from the stand. Justice Grant looked at him and gave a small nod. Mr. Brown nodded back, gratitude shining in his eyes. For the first time in that courtroom, fairness had spoken louder than pride. Outside the courtroom, sunlight filled the wide stone steps. People slowly walked out, still quiet, still thinking about what they had witnessed. The laughter from earlier felt distant now, like a bad memory no one wanted to repeat. Mr. Elijah Brown stepped outside with the help of his lawyer. The fresh air touched his face. For a moment, he simply stood there, breathing deeply. He was a free man. Justice Samuel Grant walked toward him. "Elijah," he said gently. Mr. Brown turned. His eyes widened as he looked at the man more closely now. The voice, the eyes, it all came back to him. "You were the young man," Mr. Brown said softly. "The one who was hurt that night." Justice Grant smiled. "Because of you," he said, "I am standing here today." They stood facing each other, two lives connected by one act of kindness long ago. "I never thought," Mr. Brown said quietly, "that helping someone would come back like this." Justice Grant shook his head. "That is the power of goodness," he replied. "It never disappears." Nearby, the prosecutor watched from a distance. His face was serious, filled with regret. He understood now that intelligence without humility could become cruelty. Justice Grant turned back to Mr. Brown. "You were mocked for not going to school," he said. "But you taught me the most important lesson of my life." Mr. Brown smiled gently. "I just did what was right." News cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. But Mr. Brown did not care about attention. He cared about dignity. As he walked down the steps, people made space for him. Some nodded with respect. Others quietly apologized. The narrator's voice would end the story with truth. Education can teach you how to speak. But character teaches you how to live. And respect is the highest degree of all. Mr. Elijah Brown walked away, not as a poor, uneducated man, but as a teacher the world had almost ignored.